Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
You're upset because I don't share the female fantasy of a wedding day. It's very hard to deal with that I'm always doing something wrong, and she wants me to be something I'm not. So with everything going on, we are taking it one day at a time.
All right, so that's interesting. He's saying that it's hard to know what to do when everything I do is wrong. So why would that develop in their relationship, that dynamic? They seem to get along really well in the beginning, but now he's developing this narrative, everything I do is wrong. What that implies is he thinks that she is ridiculous, that Julia's criticism of him is arbitrary or wrong-headed or something. That's usually what people say. There we go again. Everything I do is wrong, meaning you are constantly angry at me for no reason. I don't know if many viewers of this show would agree with Brandon on that, but maybe he can make a case for that. Let's watch.
What's your game plan? Have you guys sat down and discussed what you're going to do?
A little bit.
Wow. You know, this is the rest of your life.
What do you mean?
I don't know. It's like you should be happy and you just don't appear to be. That bothers me a little bit.
All right, so you hear the way the dad worded that. He says, you don't seem to be happy. That bothers me. It's an interesting way of putting it, given the gestalt that we've seen of his approach to Brandon and life in general. It's more self-centered, we would say, in that it would be more other-centered, or at least I would think more caring or warm or considerate to say, you seem really sad. Are you sad? You seem like you're not getting along with Julia. What's going on? Or you seem like you're not getting along with Julia, and I worry about you because you're my son and I love you. Something like that. But that's not what he said. What he said was, the two of you are not getting along, and it bothers me. I am bothered by that. That says something maybe. It's hard to know. I've evaluated parents in my career, and I usually observe them over long periods of time. In this show, we see tiny, tiny little bits of information, particularly with the dad, because we haven't really focused on him much on this show. But that is notable. I don't know exactly what it means, but it could mean something. Let's continue watching.
He's making a big step, both of them, for that matter, are making this huge step in their life. And for him not to go, oh, yeah, I'm just excited. I'm just hoping that's the Brandon way.
They've got to figure this out, and they don't have a lot of time to do it.
Now, a lot of family members will talk like this on the show. Instead of being concerned for them, of like, and maybe they are, and maybe they've edited it this way, but again, we didn't hear a statement like that from either one of them of, I'm worried for my son. I want him to be happy, and I'm worried. I'm anxious. It seems like maybe there's a rift there. Instead, it is they have to do this, they should do that. It's just a different mindset, or it's a different way of stating it at the very least, and it could indicate a different mindset. Now, why am I interested in that? Well, if we had a full assessment, which we'll never get, of the parents and how they parented Brandon as he grew up, then we would have, and we had a full assessment of Brandon's personality, we would have a better understanding of why Brandon does what he does, because there's been a number of behaviors this season that I think are confusing to us and to Julia. So if we understood that, so that's why I'm looking for these little bits of information. Are we seeing the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the way the father is and the way he parents, the way the mother is? It's hard to know, but let's continue watching.
I mean, are you happy deep down? How do you feel? You've never been one to wear your emotions on your sleeve.
Okay, so just 3 seconds, but I want to react to that. The mom says, how do you feel? And that's a great question. That's the first time maybe even this entire season where we've heard one of the parents actually just purely ask Brandon, what do you want? How do you feel? And then she said something interesting, that you're not the sort of person that puts your heart in your sleeve, meaning, I guess, that he doesn't express his emotions very much. Why is that? Is it temperament? Is it the way he was raised? I think that's probably more likely. That's a little bit of a detail there, and that's certainly consistent with what we've seen. He's been through a lot, but we haven't seen hardly any emotion in him. The one time where we saw a little bit of emotion was anger when Julia was hurt and accusing him of not wanting to get married. And he seemed to get a little bit hostile in that moment, but not as hostile as what we've seen on other couples on this show. So let's see what Brandon says here. I'm very, very curious.
It might seem like we are kind of rushing into this, and we are.
Right.
Because it's either the question of, do I go ahead and go through with this marriage, or do I just say goodbye to her forever? We can't sustain a relationship from two different countries.
Interesting. I didn't know that was on the table for Brandon. He's saying, do I marry her or do I break up with her? That's interesting. I didn't know he was contemplating that. So that tells us something about where he's at. Maybe that fight they had, maybe they've had more fights. Again, he had that narrative, I can't do anything right. Has this been building over time? Let's continue watching.
It's either we do this or we give up on our relationship. I'm not ready to give up on this relationship.
Okay, well, that's what we want to hear.
You truly love her.
Yeah, I love her.
Okay, good interaction all around. And for one of the very first times we see an interaction, and maybe this happens all the time off camera, but for the first time on camera, we have seen the mom in particular is saying, what do you want, Brandon? And waiting for him to say what he wants. And then he says, well, there's this and there's that and there's this and there's that, but I do want to marry her. And then she says, oh, that's what I wanted to hear. That's what that's what I wanted to know. As your mother, I wanted to know what you wanted to do. So that's good. That's a good interaction because they waited, because instead of bulldozing, which they do seemingly do sometimes. But this also might indicate that there have been other interactions like this as he was growing up, because that has been my primary concern for Brandon and his development is, was he allowed to be himself and express himself and know himself? And did the parents give space and time so that he could explore, who am I, what do I want, without them bulldozing and forcing him to do what they want him to do? In this moment, we see that they were able to slow down, ask, wait for him, and he actually stepped into that space. Now, on the scale of things, all the things we've seen this season, this isn't much of that, but it's some of it. Let's continue watching.
90 days is a short amount of time to try and figure out if you want to marry someone. And now with coronavirus, I feel like I'm rushing into things with this, but don't feel like I was really given a choice.
I feel compelled to say again that, and some of you have commented below or emailed me about this and helped me understand the K-1 visa process, that when you apply for a K-1 visa, you apparently, according to what people are telling me, you have to attest that you are going to get married, that the two of you have decided marriage is imminent. You are getting married. The 90 days is not a trial period. The 90 days is the time to get married. You have, in order to apply for the K-1 visa, which of course probably happens months before you actually get the K-1 visa, you have said, we are in love, we know we're going to get married, we have already gone through our trial periods before, we're sure, the two of us, 100%, let the person into the country, give them a visa so we can get married and live happily ever after. And Brandon is saying, I need more time. So, and someone even said that a lot of people on the show are essentially admitting to fraud because they signed a thing that said they were intending on getting married, and now they're seemingly indicating that they're not quite sure. So I don't know what that means, but I feel compelled to say that because the reason why I feel compelled is that I'm guessing 99% of people that go through the K-1 visa do it the proper way, and the people on this show don't seem to be doing it that way. They seem to be using it improperly as a trial period, which of course is silly. How would you know? Like, let's say you're dating someone and you're long distance, you rarely get to see each other in person, and then boom, you're just given 90 days to figure out if you want to marry that person. Most people would say, like, that's too much pressure. I need years of time of dating with someone before I know I want to marry them. 90 days isn't enough time. So anyway, I just feel compelled to point that out.
Sit down with Julia and Brandon and discuss what their options are right now and maybe try and move up the wedding.
Now we have concerns that what if somebody in the family were to come down with the virus? Hey, Brandon.
Okay, so again, it's fine for the parents to have this worry. They are worried, if someone gets sick, then we won't be able to have the wedding because that person will have to quarantine or whatever, and maybe we can move the date forward. So it's totally fine for the parents to have that thought, to have that anxiety. How do you communicate it, though? How do you consider it in your own heart? Do you say, hey, kid, you need to consider that, hey, 2 children, you young people who don't understand things, you need to understand what is happening right now. And you need to think like I do, the way that you would talk to children that were 10 years old. Let's say that you have a 10-year-old and they want to go to summer camp. And you as a parent are thinking, with the pandemic going on, I'm not really quite sure. And you sit down with the kid and you say, look, there's a situation going on and you really just can't go to camp. And the kid says, but I want to go to camp. And as a parent, you say, yeah, I get it, but you just can't go. There's too much at risk. I don't understand. You're just trying to ruin my life. And you, as a parent, just say, no, I'm not. I get you that you're frustrated, but this is what's going to happen. With a 10-year-old, you don't really take their opinion as seriously as you do your own opinion about it because you're the parent, they're the 10-year-old. These 2 adult children are in their late 20s and are fully able to make their own choices and should be respected as such. So as the parents, when they have their opinion, they should be approaching it as advisors, as someone saying, hey, I just want to alert you to this thing. I don't know if you're thinking about it. Maybe you already are because you're smart, grown adult people, but we'd just like you to consider this. And if you don't, no harm, no foul, but we'd like you to consider. Let's see how the parents communicate.
I don't know if you guys might want to try and move up your wedding date. I mean, if you're already married, then you already have your status and they can't do anything.
The question is, do you want to take chances?
No.
I mean, how do you feel, Julia?
So the dad is wording it a little interestingly. The question is, do you want to take chances? I mean, another kind of emotional message I think I'm hearing is, the question is, do you want to be stupid or not? I don't know if I'm just reading into that, but that seems to be the approach the dad is taking. The mom seems to be taking a much more advisory position.
How do you feel about this?
I think we need marry quickly because I don't want to give chance. We don't know what happened next. Because coronavirus, America stopped give immigrant visa.
Okay, so it sounds like all 4 of them are on the same page, no conflict. That's great. All right, well, that does it for that episode. If you want to join us on Discord or Reddit, you can click the links below, join our Discord server, or join the subreddit and participate in the conversation. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.